As promised, there will be a steady stream of trade deadline coverage from yours truly coming out until March 21st. This time around, we'll be covering, for the most part anyways, a few players that we haven't touched on much, if not at all, so far this season, that could be moved. We'll be going over the usual basic stats and why each trade destination would make sense for the respective player. And with that, here are 3 NHL players who could be moved by the deadline and where they may end up. Now, if you're a Penguins fan like myself, you'll know fair and well that one of the questions for Pittsburgh is and has been goaltending going into the deadline. While Tristan Jarry has been playing some of the best hockey of his career so far this season, the concern hasn't been surrounding the starting position, but rather the backup role in the tandem, as Casey DeSmith hasn't quite lived up to expectations. But it's not like GM Ron Hextall hasn't tried to somewhat address the need though. Prior to the 2021-2022 campaign, Hextall decided to sign netminder Louis Domingue to a 1-year deal. But, as bad luck would have it, after playing in his first game for Pittsburgh, and having a stellar performance mind you, Domingue was put on IR due to injury. While a Marc-Andre Fleury reunion would be a sexy headline and the ideal situation for fans, realistically, knowing the cap situation and that Hextall is probably not going to give up his first rounder easily, a cheaper option would be ideal. Now, there's going to be quite a few names on the market, such as Alex Georgiev, Joonas Korpisalo, and Martin Jones, just to name a few. But according to The Athletic's Josh Yohe, I'll have the article link below as always, the go-to option for Hextall could be Braden Holtby. Interestingly, Marc-Andre Fleury recently declined a trade to the Washington Capitals, due to the fact that, deep down, he's still a Penguin at heart. But unfortunately for Holtby, however, he doesn't have the luxury of a no-move clause giving him control over his future. Currently, sporting a decent .912 save percentage and a 2.78 goals against average, Holtby could be the perfect backup for Jarry to lean on if he doesn't end up back in Washington. Financially, the numbers would work as well, as Holtby would be a cheap acquisition with only a $2 million cap hit for the Penguins to take on. If Hextall can't get a 3-time Stanley Cup champ in Fleury, Holtby, who also has a Stanley Cup ring to his name, might be the next best option. If you watched my last video on Trade Talk, then you'll know fair and well that Boeser's name has been in trade rumors as of late. As we went over the possibility of Washington trying to acquire Boeser, NHL insider Frank Seravalli reported that the New Jersey Devils have interest in the forward. Since the Canucks hired Jim Rutherford, the GM has voiced an interest in attaining more cap flexibility. This paired with the fact that the Canucks have yet to reach an agreement with Boeser going into the deadline. Coming into the league, Boeser demonstrated an insane scoring ability as he notched 29 goals during his rookie year. However, throughout his young career thus far, Boeser unfortunately hasn't always been consistent with his production. Currently a pending RFA with a qualifying offer worth a steep $7.5 million, Rutherford is going to have a tough choice to make if he wants to hold on to the Minnesota native. If he does decide to keep Boeser, however, the GM will have to find a way to sign Boeser before the qualifying offer kicks in. If Boeser is shipped out of BC, one suitor that reportedly has already been expressing interest is the New Jersey Devils. Knowing that they are finally getting what they expected out of Jack Hughes at center, the next logical step would be to find a complementary winger for Hughes to play with. Boeser may not generate a multitude of scoring chances by himself, but having a guy like Hughes helping with that could be the spark that gets him back on track. Tom Fitzgerald not only has a fair chunk of cap space to work with currently, but also will have PK Subban's contract falling off the books here this summer. Former Flames captain Mark Giordano recently received a warm welcome during his return to the Saddledome in Calgary. Interestingly, the defenseman was speculated to be making a return eventually, not to play for the other side, but to be playing for the Flames yet again, instead by the deadline. But as the season has progressed, the possibility of Giordano wearing the Flames crest for a second stint is looking to be less likely. According to NHL insider Pierre LeBrun, Ben Sherratt was originally supposed to be a piece in the Tyler Toffoli deal, therefore he believes that this is telling that Calgary is looking for a cheaper option. With that being said, if we were to pretend that the Flames weren't an option, there's still several contenders out there that have been linked to Seattle's captain. Knowing that the Boston Bruins have been weaker at the left side on the back end could lead them to consider inquiring about the defenseman's services. Dangling DeBrusk as a return piece, who was actually linked to Seattle earlier in the season, could be a good start for Don Sweeney and company. Another team that's been linked to Giordano is the St. Louis Blues. But knowing how close they are against the cap, it seems less likely to happen. And lastly, the most interesting team that Giordano could end up on is the New York Rangers. NHL insiders all around are expecting the New York Rangers to be exceptionally aggressive this deadline, and for good reason. The Blue Shirts have made huge strides this season, as they're currently third in the Metro Division. Knowing that the bottom pairing has been a weakness for New York, adding Giordano into the mix could greatly address the issue. While he may not be used to playing such a small role, the prospect of winning a Stanley Cup could entice the veteran to okay the deal. Even though he doesn't have a full no-move clause, Giordano does still have a modified clause in which he can list 19 teams he wants to be traded to.